time to start taking some money in for the skills, you know, gotta get paid. So,
I don't know, the brochure for, you know, when we buy tickets and whatnot from the colleges, they're like, you can't buy them a hamburger, you can't be buying them dessert, we'll catch you. And
Really?
so, oh yeah, so there is no dollar threshold, it literally can be $5 hamburger in and out, and, you know, they're like, oh, you're a booster now, you buy a bunch of season tickets, so.
So is that the same thing, like, I remember being a kid, Tarkanian got in trouble for that.
right.
That, like, some of the players at that time, what was this, the mid-nineties, early nineties? Was it about that time? Yeah, and I guess they were accepting cars and a bunch of other bigger stuff than $5 hamburgers, but same principle applies, right?
Well, I think we found out a lot in college sports where some things have come out with some big names at some big universities, maybe one or two, but
One or two, just recently. We
Yeah.
still haven't laid it down though on how that's all turned out, actually, it's still kinda hush hush. Well, once Kansas got named, if you notice in college basketball, it kinda took a back seat. A lot of parents actually that I know whose kids are in club ball got really scared really fast because a lot of AAU coaches were secretly named in those investigations. And they started calling me to see what contacts I had to see, hey, what's the word on the street? Because, you know, Vegas historically has been a basketball town.
Yeah.
And we're not just talking about UNLV, we're talking about the high school level, the AAU, the number of club tournaments that go on in Las Vegas is a large amount. And I've been exposed to a lot of people nationwide, you know, being a resident here and going to a lot of these games and kind of seeing how the scout system works, how, you know, the agent system. At one time I thought about possibly being a sports agent and seeing how that system works. And so it'll be interesting moving forward in 2020 how that kind of all plays out, especially with the new law in California. You know, that's an eighth of our country that's forcing an issue, really, and nobody knows how that's gonna pan out. Like, hey, are they actually gonna pay players? I was having a discussion last week actually with some friends of mine who were, you know, scholarship players, and that was the discussion was, hey, you know what, they kind of are, you're like a full-time employee of the university, because whether you're judged on your conduct, you're judged on really your performance, you're judged on your academics, you're judged on so many variables, and the expectation levels are super high. And that's usually, you know, that has a big difference to play. A lot of people don't know that when you're a college player, they dictate your schedule. Like, here's your training schedule, here's your study schedule, which for some people, that might be a great advantage because they're going from complete chaos to, you know,
A structure. Yeah.
But for a lot of kids, that's where you see, you're like, oh man, I can't believe that kid is, you know, I can't believe he was smoking a joint, and I can't believe he was risking his scholarship and his future over a joint. Well, that's like the tip of the iceberg. Like, you know, we all have different baggage, we all have different, you know, issues and problems, and so just because you're, you know, a quote unquote like almost contract, you know, athlete, doesn't make you any different, doesn't make you immune from that. And, you know, you at some point you do need to figure out your future. So it's great to have Will, you in here, because at one point you were a contract player for UNLV, and now some years down the road, you know, you had to figure out, oh, my life is more than just being a student athlete.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it plays a big role, right? And some of that I think is hard because we hold those student athletes to a totally different standard, right? Whereas, you know, your normal kid, we know, oh, he's gonna be at a frat party, oh, he's gonna be doing this. But like you said, when you see a student athlete doing that, all of a sudden it's like, whoa, he's risking
whole
a
thing
scholarship.
changes.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
now there's a whole nother context to it, right? Like, oh, well, you have to be this, and we're gonna hold you so much higher and above. Well, you know, we're both going to the university, we're doing the same thing, right? I mean, I'm just playing sports, but now, like you said, I'm an ambassador to the school. I think it changes the whole dynamic and really the way people view you.
Do you think the athletes want more? Or are they just so excited to sign? Like, some football player, basketball player signs at a big university, he knows that he's gonna be on ESPN, he knows he's gonna be on TV playing, his name's gonna get out there on his path to the NBA or NFL or something, do you think they're willing to put up with, like, how they're treated just to get to the path of where they want?
You know, I think it very much depends person to person. I think situation to situation. I think it can really change because, you know, I'm sure there's guys who know that, hey, I'm good enough to go play ball. We might be playing somewhere in junior college, I don't know, whatever, you know, and they say, hey, I might be out there. Maybe I am, you know, maybe I'm a D1 school, whatever it is, but I'm probably not gonna do this forever. You know, sure would I like to, of course, you know, but I think some people are a little more realistic too. I think a lot of like the, you know, the pay to play act that they're coming out with, I think a lot of that comes now from when you look at the Zions and the Balls and those kind of families, right? Because they are bigger than life, and that's before they've really gone out and gone, you know, way over and above. Now, I'm not saying Zion had, I mean, Zion was, that guy was a beast. There's no way you can deny that, but
Yeah.
I think at this point, I think those situations, I think previous athletes see those situations and think, man, if I was in that spot, I was that Zion, I would want to be getting paid off my name because Duke's blowing them up.
Yeah,
You know,
sure.
but I think so. I think the previous generation of athlete who may have come from that system where they had people that they were playing with, whether it was, you know, in Michigan or Louisville or wherever, and they were getting, you know, their teammates were getting things, but they weren't getting anything, but they're just as big now. You know, and I think they kind of want to just make it fair for everyone, you know, and so I think they're kind of looking back at, well, I wish it would have been this way now, and now I have power and influence, so I'm going to push that.
Yeah, I get that. You know, as a parent, in one of our past episodes, we talked about, we even had Marcus on here talking about his kids preparing to go to college and possible being student athletes. And me being, you know, coaching my kids and watching them come up in sports and stuff like that. That's something that a college, I'm gonna sound like a cheapskate here, but I don't wanna really pay for college. Like if I have a kid
Nothing
that.
wrong with that.
Yeah, so,
And look here, there you go. Stripping from this Wagner and flipping it
we
in.
got the game on.
First one in the corner, and a skate by McAvoy. Nosek curls out. Big across for England. Head up, looking, wrist shot in the middle, and a save Rask on deflection. Magnus will clear. And Derek England back
All
to
right.
the net. And the Golden Knights
So we got the Golden Knights on right now in the first.
at 6
Golden Knights up by 1.
latest. They scored
1-0.
They
Now,
have not trailed
But what I was saying is,
so
like,
far this season.
I don't wanna pay for college. If one of my kids can get into an organization that helps me out so they can get educated, and regardless if they go professional or not, dude, that's huge on a family like myself that I don't have to worry about. They just score.
Riley Smith.
Who did it?
Riley Smith looked like
Oh, nice.
beautiful pass across. We put her top shelf right where Grandma keeps the cookies, eh?
Right on. But anyways, you know, that's definitely something that, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how it all works out, I hope.
Yeah, you know, and I 100% agree with you. And, you know, back to your question, do you think some student athletes are okay with being, you know, held to that standard or having to act differently than their peers? I think a lot of them are in that exact same case. You know, they don't want to have to pay for school. You know, I mean, I didn't want student debt when I came out, so I mean,
Yeah,
I
for
worked
sure.
hard and I did what I could to make sure that I paid for everything. And blessedly enough, I didn't have any student loans when I came out, which was great. So, you know, I was really, really lucky and very fortunate, small population there. But I do think that there are a lot of student athletes that don't mind, you know, hey, I'm going to have to get up and I have practice, I have 2 days, I have school, I have to travel, and I have to be held to the standard. I think a lot of them do because it's an experience too. And, you
Yeah.
know, if there's things that you don't do, there's always the look back and I wish I would have. But I think, you know, when kids have that opportunity, and I think more and more now they're getting to realize it, but, you know, and I'm sure there's a lot of parents, like you said, in the exact same way, like, oh, anything off, you know, any burden out of my pocketbook's great.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Golden Knights are up 2-0 for those who are following at home. You know,
This is
one
gonna
of the,
be a lot for me. I got
Yeah.
the game on,
Got
Will on the
here.
other side, want to ask a bunch of questions, and I'm trying to stay focused here.
Well,
It's like a normal night at the bar for me. I was already looking at my lines right now. I just checked the lines for the game, so.
well, so Will, just my background. I'm born and raised here, second generation. As a kid, I played a lot of like a preemptive like fantasy sports with my a lot of pick'em leagues. It's actually not fantasy, but pick'em leagues with my mom's work. And the crazy thing about that is, actually after you start winning a couple of those pick'em leagues, they tend to start not inviting you back, right? When you're 13, 14, 15-year-old and you keep winning the pick'em leagues, they tend to not invite you back. And so, but what I want to get to is like, I personally have never laid a sports bet.
Sure.
So, can you walk us through like, because, on one hand you're like, well, why doesn't everyone lay a sports bet? Why doesn't everyone, why doesn't everyone win, I guess?
Well, I like to think that sports is one of those things. It's one of the great equalizers, and I think ESPN even has a commercial out about right now. Like, where is it that a place, a dream can start, and an injury can be a beginning, and things like that. And I think it's a good way to market. But I think that sports is really a great equalizer in the fact that even the saying, any given Sunday, right? Any given Sunday, you go out there and an athlete's an athlete, and some people have great days, some people don't. So I think that's why it's like, oh yeah, I could always win, but you never know what's going to happen. Really, I don't think anything's ever. I don't think there's ever really a sure bet.
Yeah. Well, something that I always thought of, like, it's kind of weird, like Eric said, being from here, I think there's a lot of guys out there, and this is one thing I've brought up, there's a lot of guys out there who would love to place a sports bet. But I think the intimidation, I think it's a guy thing, like maybe like the old school, like, I don't need to ask for directions type thing. And they're nervous about bellying up to a sports book, and they want to put some money on the Knights, and especially this time of year, man. This is an exciting time of year.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
We have baseball playoffs going, hockey's starting up, football's in full swing. We got teams doing good, surprising teams doing good.
If you're a soccer player or follower, like me, EPL's back on.
And with that,
That's English Premier League, by the way. I had a roommate
I
in
do know
college who
that.
was
EPL, sorry.
from
Yeah.
England, and I didn't understand at first why he was so incessant about us getting like satellite TV to watch the Premier League. But
at 3 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah. Yeah. I work nights, so it was no problem. I'd come home and he'd be watching soccer. I'm like, oh yeah, cool.
There's nothing wrong with going to the bar at 4:30 in the morning if Manchester United's on, just so you know.
Is that your team over there?
That is my team, yeah,
Awesome.
absolutely.
So to a new guy, I guess let's start at the beginning. For some guy out there, he's seeing his team, his favorite team out there. He's in the playoffs in baseball, or his team, like, he's a 49ers fan and they're 4-0, starting the season, and say he wants to throw some money on there.
Or it's whoever's playing the Dolphins the next week.
What does he do?
Well,
Say he has $40 in his pocket, he wants to put it on a game. Maybe he's going to a Golden Knights game, and I think that's something that would be fun if you're going to attend the game, to also have a ticket in your pocket.
that's actually something, it's funny you say that, I'm very religious about. Every game I go to, I bet. And I mean, and I'm not just saying Golden Knights. I mean, if I'm at a Giants baseball game, and being a Bay Area fan, Niners, Giants, Warriors, I will bet any game I go to. And that includes the Aviators. That includes
everything.
literally any game I go to. For me, it's more fun, and it makes it more interesting to be able to pick a side, and it just gives you something else, something else to be excited about. When I went back east for some business a while back, I went to a New Jersey Devils game. They were playing the Islanders, and I had no dog in that fight. I could have really cared less. But I was in New Jersey, Devils were at home.
Yeah.
I said, all right, well, I'm gonna bet the Devils. I went and got a hoodie, and I cheered just like every other Devils fan out there, and it was
And had a good time.
great, so. But it definitely does make it a little more interesting, and it's another thing you can sit there and watch a hockey game and just, that you don't have a fight in, and just, cool, clap every time there's a goal, whatever, or I could've just bet the over, and then every time there's a goal, you just clap, so, I mean.
Yeah.
There's definitely ways to make it interesting, but, back to your point, or even your question Eric, in the beginning, why do not win all the time, right? Because there are such things as spreads, and we'll get a little more into that, but, that makes it hard. That's why we have sports handicappers, and they're pretty good. A lot of these times, sure, they'll screw up a few, and there'll be some like, wow, where did that line come from? But,
Yeah.
I mean, for the most part, you look, and I can't tell you how many times, and I'll explain a little more as well, but I can't tell you how many times I've lived and died by the hook, which is the half point, which
Yeah.
that's just another name for it. It's a little jargon, so.
Wasn't there,
and if I do
wasn't there
say,
a big hook last week or something like off of that half point where?
I mean, there was a few I can say, it was, it was the, it was Penn State. I bought the hook there, it was 28 and a half.
Yeah.
You can pay extra to buy the hook on a straight bet, which again, I'll explain all the jargon as we get into it a little
Yeah.
more, but
There's a lot of
and
that
if I
in
do say
sports
something,
betting.
please just, say, hey, I don't know what that means, cool,
Yeah,
I'll throw it out
okay.
there for sure. But I bought the half a point, so instead of paying minus 110, which is the price, I paid a little extra, and instead of taking Penn State at minus 28, saying they're gonna win by 28 or more, or 28 and a half, I got them at 28, well, they won at 28 flat. So that's a push, so I got my money back. But if I would've paid the regular price, taking the 28 and a half, I'd lost that bet by a half a point. So that's what they call that getting hooked,
Yeah.
so.
Oh, got it.
It's crazy too. I mean, what's your, do you kind of buy into the conspiracy theories? I mean, sometimes those spreads are so tight and so close, you're like, how do they, it's just pointing at like every week, there's like 3 that are like so spot on, right? Like the game of the week, you're like, there's no way. There's no way. I think the Hawks game was a point and a half,
Yeah.
and the Hawks won by a point. And you're like, how is that possible? Like,
Oh, yeah, you're right, no, I think that's probably what
Yeah.
you're talking about then,
Yeah.
yeah, I think the Rams were plus 1.5, so I mean, if you buy that hook, right, you push either
Yeah.
side.
Yeah.
If you don't, you lose one side or the other that you take it on, yeah. I mean, yes, there are times where you're like, how could you be that good?
Right.
But I mean, there are a lot of analytics that go into it, there's a lot of things, I mean, historically, you can strength the schedule, things like that, but there are times you're just like, come on, man, like, someone's back there going, hey, do not get this first down.
Yeah,
It's gotta
right.
feel, it has felt that way many a time, and we always wanna blame something, for sure. But then, I mean, then there's lines like the Sunday night game this last weekend, which I took a bath on. I had Kansas City, and I kept in-game them, because I thought they were gonna get close at least, and then losing outright. They were 10.5 point favorites to start the night.
Yeah.
And then they just lose outright to the Colts, so I mean, you get games like that too.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's, when you have games like that where the spread is so far off, or, the dog just is a complete upset. And I think even last season, they were talking about that on the radio, that a lot of dogs were winning. Like an abnormal amount of dogs. I think like 64% or something. And so, if you started off the season just betting the dogs, you were, just in parlays, you were winning. And so, but yeah, it's those few games when you're, when you're invested in it and you're like, man, come on, how is that possible when you get to the over so close, the under so close, and then the spread is so close? You're like, they're pulling, and we come from Vegas, right? The infamous hot tub, right? The infamous, it'll, shed a little here, shed a little there, The cheese still tastes the same if you, knock a little bit off the block, so.
Exactly. No, yeah, I mean, it is really hard to look at, and and it depends what you bet too, like you were talking about over-unders, people getting close to that. I'm not an over-under guy. It depends. I'll do a little over-unders here, but I'm normally a spreads guy or a money line guy. So, I mean, that's what I go to more than
So,
anything.
yeah, go to something simple, like I literally have never put a sports bet in.
So
and-
walk us through.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what is that 110?
You got 40
Like, what does
bucks in
the
your
140
pocket.
mean?
Sure.
You got 40 bucks in your pocket. You just walked up to your very first sports book area. You got a board full of teams and full of numbers.
Oh no, let's go a little bit closer. So they're putting the new kiosks in at the T-Mobile. You're walking in the game. You park somewhere else.
Wait a
you
minute.
save the 40 bucks, and you're like, oh, I got an extra 40 bucks. what do I do, right?
Sure.
Adam, they're gonna put kiosks in, it's in, I
A
don't know.
kiosk, like a gaming kiosk?
Yeah,
I think you're
gaming
talking about
kiosk.
Oh, I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
the William Hill kiosk, yeah.
So generally the William
So
Hill-
wait, you walk into a Knights game.
I think it's
at
gonna be
T-Mobile.
outside, right, or is it gonna be inside, do you know?
I haven't heard what they're gonna do with them, and I haven't heard which kind of kiosks they are, so generally the kiosks are not a kiosk where you put a bet in. It's where you can deposit money or things like that. Now, they may have specialized ones now that you can have an account and do
Yeah.
it through there, but if you do it through like a William Hill like that, in that kiosk situation, you would have to have an online account.
I think this one is meant for, I guess it's supposed to mimic the ones that are in London. And so in London, right at the stadiums, they have kiosks where you can just go up to the windows or go up to a kiosk and lay a bet. And I think that's what it's supposed to be mimicked after, because, they're just looking at, okay, hey, we've got all these people going to the game.
Sure.
How great would it be to lay a bet on the game that we're going into, for the same reason that you
Yeah,
said.
yeah,
that's
exactly.
true.
No, I mean, and I'm.
So I'm just
I
saying,
haven't,
like,
I haven't heard, I'm not
Yeah.
sure, but say that's the case, right? Anything automated like that is gonna be a little more user-friendly, I think, and it kinda takes away what you're talking about.
Had
Adam, with the-
intimidation.
Yeah, you kinda, like you said, a lot of people don't necessarily wanna walk up to a counter, not really know what they're doing. You got 5 guys behind you,
Yeah.
and they're sitting there
Yeah.
with papers in hands and pencils, and like clearly they're doing some research or
Yeah.
whatever they're doing, but you kinda get that like, oh, what if I do this wrong, or what if I do this wrong?
Get out of my way, kid.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
seriously,
Yeah.
like, come on, guy, let's go, you know?
Yeah.
But, in that instance, it's great, you can go in there and they may specifically only let you bet that game. I don't know exactly, like, say,
Yeah, I don't
how,
know either.
how those kiosks are gonna work,
But I think addressing like Adam's question is like, okay, how is this actually gonna play out? Like, what is actually gonna go on to where, like my buddy, he used to send me down in college and, hey, can you go place a bet? And I'm like, dude, I have no idea what I'm doing. So I'm like, literally like verbatim, I'm like, and then they asked me a question and I'm like, I look like a deer in the headlight. And the guy
Yeah.
across is like, dude, you look like you know what you're doing, but you don't. Like, right? You speak another language. And it's funny about my roommate is, he swore he won all the time. He was like, here, I can show you the tickets. I said, I don't care about the tickets, show me the money.
Yeah.
And and what we made him realize early on is most books are, most successful sports books are in the middle of casinos for a reason. So if you do win something at the book, on your way out, you can redeposit that into the casino coffers. And we, years and years were like, listen, hey, you may say you're winning, and you might be winning 60% of the time, but those blackjack tables that welcome you in with a free drink, they're winning 90% of the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, they reach out and grab you.
Yeah. So like, say I wanted to play the Knights game tonight. What was the spread on them?
Well, so in this case, like in hockey,
Yeah.
the spread is always the same, it's called puck line, right? So it's always -1.5. So they're saying you're gonna win by more than one. It's like baseball, your run line. It's
Okay.
always -1.5.
If
Now,
you're the favorite.
if you're the favorite, plus
Okay.
1.5 if you're the dog, or if you're the underdog. But what will change is the price of that line. So, like for instance, this game was supposed to be a pretty close game. So the money line, meaning no spread, you're just picking a straight up winner, right, was Golden Knights -120. So what that means is for every $120 you bet, you'd win 100. So when it's a minus, it's the amount you bet, you get 100. So, for instance, if the Golden Knights were playing.
So you say, so if you bet $120, you only get 100 back, or you
No,
get 100 in addition to?
You win 100, and it would pay 220, because you get your money back no matter what.
Right.
So in that case, Golden Knights win, you bet 120, you get 100 plus your 120 back, so you get paid.
Oh, that seems
220.
like a decent investment.
It's not bad. So basically, what you're. So I mean.
I know where Eric's gonna be later on tonight.
Yeah, all of a sudden, hey, Will, can we hit up Green Valley? It's right around the corner. But I mean, you're basically paying 20 cents on the dollar, right? You're laying $1.20. That's another way to say that, -120. you're laying $1.20.
Yeah, I always hear that, and I had literally no idea what that means.
And if you look at the exact same way, because it's 120, right? That's an easy number to visualize. 120 wins 100. Or just using math, take it down. If you bet $12, you win 10. If you bet
Right.
$1.20, you win $1. So basically, you're paying 20 cents on the dollar for the favorite.
So why don't more people just bet the favorite? It seems like that's a better hedge.
Well, I mean, ultimately, it's real easy to say, oh yeah, then we'll take the easy favorites.
Right.
You know, but then again, that's where I'm saying, so like, when we talk about the price of the puck line, the price of the game changes as well. So it gets entirely more expensive to bet favorites, especially in a case where, like, the Golden Knights are at home playing the Phoenix Coyotes. You know, like.
That seems like easy money.
Yeah.
That seems like easy money.
You know, and it really does. And I think, like I said, that's where sports becomes a great equalizer. It always seems like, well, yeah, I mean, we're crushing it this year, or even our first year, right?
Right.
We were talking about this earlier at work, about how, you know, that first year, the lines were so ridiculous for futures bets, meaning you're gonna predict the future of whatever happens, right?
Right, they were like a
Yeah.
13-1 or something.
Well, I
There
got,
was like 1 or 2 tickets right in town that had them going to the Stanley Cup.
oh, there was a few. Oh, yeah, and
Yeah.
I think before they drafted, they released the first line, or right after they drafted, and they were 500-1 to win the Western Conference. So, I mean, that's money, you know, everyone wishes that it got back in on.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Right, and it decreased after that, you know, with players coming out in a little preseason, that's obviously, but I got us just to win the Pacific Division, obviously the first kind of the lowest step, at 40-1. You know, I put $50 on that, and then there you go. You know,
Right.
that's a pretty good win for a $50 investment. Now, should it really, in theory, have happened? No, we were supposed to be terrible. We
Yeah.
were supposed to be
Yeah.
awful,
Especially that first year.
Yeah.
so.
And there was a few people who put it down that they were gonna win the Stanley Cup.
Oh,
And
yeah.
their tickets got huge.
Oh yeah, and it got to the point where it got so expensive for Vegas. You had sports books buying people back out of their bets. You had people able
Is
to.
that what helped? Have you ever sold? I just hear the advertisements on the radio about the
Prop
ticket.
swap.
Yeah, prop swap.
We were talking
Does that
about
actually
what's
work,
that?
or does people actually use it, or?
Explain that.
So PropSwap is a website where you can list a bet you have. It could be, you know, a giant parlay that you put some money on, and there might be 2 pieces left of that parlay to hit, and it's gonna pay a big number. You could list it, and basically you can sell it for a fraction of what it would win. And someone out there will buy it for whatever fraction of that win, which basically allows you to hedge early, right?
Right.
Rather than having to wait one more leg of that parlay, right, and getting down to your last leg, because then you get down to your last leg, and if you have a ticket that's gonna pay $10,000 because you put in this huge 8-team or something crazy, and you've got 7 of 8, well, you're going down immediately. Well, hopefully, you can really. You gotta have some cojones to let that ride, right? Because that's 10 grand in your pocket. But
Right.
you could go down, hedge the other side for a fraction, and now you have a winner no matter what.
Right.
Just depending how much you're willing to cut out of your hedge.
So would you call that hooking a parlay? You're coming in halfway?
You would never hedge halfway, because there's a lot more time left. There's too much time left for that.
Like
so.
I said, there's gonna be a few stupid questions.
No, there's
from
no
there,
stupid
man.
questions.
I
There's no
just-
stupid questions. But yeah, in that situation, no, you're not going to like hedge like halfway through. But like I said, if you're down, say you put in an 8-team parlay and it's down, you got 7 of 8 right.
Yeah,
You know, that's when you're going, okay, well, I'm gonna go bet the other side. You know, depending how big the win is. You
For
know,
sure.
if you bet $10 and it's gonna, you know, whatever parlay you put a 3-team parlay in and it's only gonna pay 30. Like if you're really that vested in getting that $10 back, you know, maybe you would if you have 2 out of 3 at that point. But if normally you only do something big for a hedge like that when you've got something really big going.
so, okay, so I'm gonna start with some of the questions.
Perfect.
Who comes up with the odds?
You have what they call sports handicappers.
Okay, so does each casino have their own handicapper?
Yes.
So you can go
Lines
to,
will vary. They're always
from
very.
casino to casino?
Well, for like Red Rock or Green Valley, right? They're not gonna vary because that's a station.
Station,
They have
yeah, okay,
a-
got it.
But like William Hill or Stations or Leroy's, you know, you're gonna see shift. You're gonna see
So there's
different.
places online that you can kind of shop around
Oh, yeah.
and find the bet that you want.
Vegas Insider is one of the best ones. You can go to Vegas Insider and it basically just has what looks like an Excel spreadsheet, you know, just like a matrix. And it'll
Nice.
say at the Mirage Sportsbook, which may be an independently owned one or whatever, you know, but they'll have all these different ones, and it'll show you what the lines are, it'll show you what the prices of the games are, and I mean, they're all very, very close generally.
Nice.
But,
Alright.
but actually, so, because I've heard that on the radio in Vegas Insider, what's the main guy there, the older guy? He's always on the radio from Vegas Insider, but now listening to understand that half a point that everyone complains about is, it makes sense that, you know, that's what they're complaining about, is that little half point, you know, why everyone isn't winning,
So the odds aren't that big of a difference between one organization to another. Like Erickson, you're talking half points from, say, William Hill to Station
Stations,
Casinos.
yeah. And that's very much what you'll tend to see, is it's a very close trend like that. But, so the other thing, right, overall, a game can shift, and you may hear about, you know, people talking about, you know, sharps betting heavy on one side to shift the line, or someone coming in and betting a bunch of money on one side. What happens there is, the more money that gets laid on one side, the casinos are gonna try and take some risk out of that, and they'll start changing the line to appeal them, to appeal you as a consumer, or even the sharps. Sharps are like pros, you're big time, you're professionals.
Gotcha.
People like that will actually, with a bunch of or expendable money kind of thing, they will bet one side really heavy to get the line to move down point and a half somewhere where they like it. And you'll just see a game where the public goes nuts on. You know, they call them, you know, Sharps and Joes, or like the Cowboys. But you'll see games that start out, you know, as a 15-point favorite, and next thing you know, it's 13 and a half. And you're like, oh man, you know, and then if you watch, especially too, like if you have an app and you watch, you'll see Sunday morning, you'll see line shifts go nuts, because it's like the last chance. And if you know, especially like I said, if a lot of the sharps or the pros come in, and the public has bet up one side really high, all of a sudden it's got almost a 2-point line shift, which is big. You know, if they see that, they might wait till last minute and then they're dump a bunch of cash, and all of a sudden you'll see it shift back down a little.
So they can change it up to the game starting.
Right, and then
They can't
and then you
change it
get
as
in-
the game starts.
Then you get into what's called in-play betting. But whatever you bet it at, you get it at. That doesn't change.
Oh,
So
that doesn't change.
Once I put in a bet, like right now, if I go bet the Knights to win, in game right now, they are minus 140. So I'm laying $1.40.
Which Boston just tied it up.
Right. So now it's
First.
closer to like that game line. You're paying another
Yeah.
20 cents on the dollar from the pregame.
Got it.
Right? But if I wanted to bet them right now, I could bet $140 to win 200, well, pay 240. You'd win 100, pays 240.
Got it.
But whatever I get it at and authorizes it right then and there, that's what it is. You don't shift, like you don't play that limbo game. What you bet it at, so that's why like injuries are so big, right? When all of a sudden, you know, so-and-so blows their ACL in practice and you're their big stud quarterback, all of a
Yeah.
sudden lines will come off the board. They'll call them off, or you know, things like that where there's injuries happen or a suspension happens or something. You'll see massive line shifts, or you'll see them just take a game off the board completely. And a lot of times when that happens too, your bet will actually be refunded because it's no longer a valid line.
Did you see any changes with the whole AB thing, going from the Raiders to the Patriots, now to unemployed?
Maybe I just never believed enough in the Raiders at the time. They're still.
Come on now.
I mean, just futures bet. I mean, he really didn't play.
Yeah. Yeah, he never played for technically for the Raiders.
So really, as far as like game-to-game shifts or seeing him go out a game or something, I wasn't looking really intently at his you know, as the Raiders futures bets. I wasn't looking real intently at that. So, but I mean, there may have been a shift, but I believe, I want to say I heard we were looking at one of the sports talk radios. They were talking about it, and there was a very minor shift, not
much.
that much.
Now, so when guys put a lot of money on, like an old man who puts $3 million on the Houston Astros to win the World Series.
Sure.
He's all over the news. He shows up in cash in this suitcase. The guy's like, doesn't he own a furniture store in Houston or something like that? Or he's
Yeah. It's like Big Al's or something. I've seen a name for it on the ticker tape below.
Yeah,
on the
so,
but-
so he puts that large amount down, it's
Right.
all over the place. Does that change it up a little bit? That kind of money, does that change the odds of the Astros really making it to the game?
Well, that being a futures bet, it may shift it or impact it, but it'll be very slight, because, you know, there's so much more to go. If you're talking a weekly game, you're talking about something that's going to happen.
Right.
So like, no matter what, the Pats are gonna play this Sunday. They're not
Yeah.
gonna bye, I didn't even look, so. But you know what I'm saying, the Dolphins will play this Sunday, no matter what. So if someone comes in and bets $10 million money line, or even the spread, whatever it is, against, I think they played, I don't know if the Redskins maybe this week, but anyway, if they put a ton of money on that it's going to shift. That's going to shift
Got it.
for sure, and it'll be a bigger shift than you'd see like in a futures bet.
Okay, so you bring it up, Redskins just fired their coach. Does that, will coaching like that affect the line a little bit at all, or
I
does
mean,
it mess with it?
You mean
Or you're
this
talking
week?
about the
Yeah,
Redskins?
just where did you, obviously Will's got a little smile on his face, so I'm thinking he's putting some money somewhere, along with either against or for the Redskins.
I was gonna say, I think the smirk was more,
I don't know what I'm talking about.
No, not at all. No, not to, bag on any Redskin lovers out there, but you guys are a little bit beyond repair this season. I think we've seen that, and
There's only 10 of them.
there's, so. Yeah, so I think that, sure, we'll maybe see some shift in that. Yeah, I mean, now you've got, you've got an offensive coordinator, whoever is coming up as an interim. You might see some shift, but I mean, they've been historically this year not very good. So, you might see a pretty common line that you have seen all year for them.
Well, not so much for like the Redskins, but say coaching or staff changes for like a team that's like really doing good.
Sure.
Say something happens and Belichick is no longer the coach of the Patriots.
Well, I mean,
I think that would be huge.
that would take. an
Wouldn't
act of
that
God.
change things up?
Oh, I think you'd see
No.
prop bets everywhere
Oh,
of
yeah.
who would lose to the Patriots now. I think you'd see prop bets of, Belichick is more than just a one-team variable. I mean, he affects the entire NFL. But I think with the Redskins, I think with their coaching change, I think I've heard this in past years. There's a stat out there that shows like what the consequence of like the record of teams after a coach being fired mid-season, and I want to say that they probably win. And I think this is just going off the database. I think they win that first game coming off of a coaching change, because one of the things they talk about is all the players actually amp up their service,
Oh, I believe that.
because now they're not just, now they're basically re-interviewing for their job with whoever the coach is going to be, and so they need to bring it to another level. And so I think that stat, I think is pretty high on teams after a coaching change, because then everyone goes, oh man, that coordinator's doing so well, why don't we just keep him to the coach and keep going? And they don't realize the dynamics, the culture that's going on the backside is they're all reapplying for their jobs, because they know another coach comes in, it doesn't matter how well they're doing, that may not be their philosophy, his position may completely change overnight.
Well, it's the same thing with baseball. I think, I don't know what the numbers are, but I guarantee when a manager gets ejected, those players come out and they start playing. It doesn't,
Well, I
it
don't know
doesn't
if
really
you
mess with it.
follow the podcast, but everything kind of reverts back to baseball around Shorty.
Yeah, no, I've just been around short enough.
Well, it's the same thing at work. Everyone wants to talk about football, and I'm like, how do you get your head? I mean, don't get me wrong, football's fun. It's fun to watch. I watch the games too. But
No one talks soccer with me, so.
But at the same time, dude, it's like, dude, this is baseball. This is the best time in baseball. Tell me that game, the Braves and the Cardinals, how exciting that was. Going into the
That was
10th.
great.
I mean, dude, it was a total battle. I love that kind of stuff.
I don't think it was played here, so I haven't heard one person talk about it.
Are you for reals? Come on now, man. What do you mean one person talk about it?
Yeah, it's been a couple of days since I've seen you, so I was like, well, I know Shorty's gonna talk about it when I see him next, so.
So I don't have to look at it.
I don't-
I don't need to watch highlights.
That's all I'm gonna talk about.
You know, I think, I do agree with what you're saying, you know, I think that, players tend to think, well, they may not be covered under someone, who, they may have had a favorite quarterback who was kind of under that coach's arm forever and now they're gone. So I think that is part of it, but I generally think that if the coaching change is made or some kind of staff change that big is made, generally I think there's more discord in the organization than that. And generally you got a pissed off locker room or whatever it is.
See, that's
you
what I
know.
would think.
Cause for Manchester United, I think this is a really, really good example of what we're talking about because they had for 3-4 years, we had Jose Mourinho, and I never liked the guy. He's won at the Premier League level. Which is championship top flight in England.
Right.
And won championships with Chelsea. But when we got him, we started off all right. We had good personnel in place though, and but it went very downhill very quickly. And then finally, when they finally sacked him, and they brought in Ole Gunnar, who was our interim and who has been signed now. The first 4 or 5 matches after, we were unstoppable. But I think there was more of the shift, change in the locker room where the players wanted to play now for someone. They were they got rid of that cancer out of their locker room that was bringing them down. And you can see it in interviews, where he's dragging down the team and down talking players. And so I think that's part of it too. I think that there's generally a more macro level problem at that point.
Yeah.
Than just, I gotta try out for my job. It's like everyone's like, oh, maybe I actually want to play for someone now because maybe I'll get the respect or whatever that.
Yeah, and I think that at any level, I think at some point players have to, there's something that clicks and says, hey, you know what? I want to play today. Maybe I can't win the Super Bowl. Maybe I can't win the championship, but on some small level, I'm gonna make my stats, right?
Oh yeah.
And I think that's, and like I agree with you, like playing for someone, dude, that lights a fire under you. So it'll be interesting what goes on with the Redskins, because right now, beyond their job, they really don't, and on the flip side though, they have a safety net, right? They already have their contracts in place. I'm in contract, they're making their, $950 to $3 million, and then, where they go from there. And, and so, like, there's talk about every Dolphin player right now, like, who wants to put that on their resume? Hey, I was on the Dolphins, in 2019,
I'd go be a kicker for him.
Yeah.
If you're listening.
You know what I just thought of? I just thought of that movie, the Jim Carrey movie, The Kicker from the Dolphins.
Yeah, oh yeah. Laces out, Dan.
Yeah, right? Dude, that's where my mind runs to.
That's hilarious.
But anyways, I find it interesting how much these kind of events, from player injury to even locker room changes, like from staff to all that stuff, affects somewhat of your betting line.
Yeah.
And for a true sports fan, to follow everything of the game, not just if your favorite team wins or loses, but you follow every aspect of that team, that's where you become a better gambler for that. So, I can see why these diehard sports fans, I've changed in the last few years of playing fantasy sports from diehard team fans to, I started to become fans of players and fans of situations that affect my fantasy team. I find myself watching games I thought I would never watch because I have a pitcher on one team and I got a couple hitters on another team, and I really want to watch to see how they're going to do because I'm playing the guy that's talking a lot of smack on Yahoo,
Sure.
and I want to beat him.
Yeah. Well, it was nice seeing you start that Bryce Harper fan club.
Yeah. Yahoo auto drafted that guy for me.
Yeah,
all right.
sure.
And he did nothing. Well, no, he did. I can't say that. He did good. He did all right.
They did all right.
I can't talk too much smack on the local boy. But
Well, so, Will, quick question is like, when did you start sports betting? Like, when did it become a little bit of more of a passion for you?
Yeah.
When did it switch to?
It's called 21, it's called the law.
One more time? No. No, I remember, when being a kid and my dad would be like, hey, just, pick 3 teams you like or something, and we'll see if we agree, and then like, it would even go down to where, he'd get like a parlay card and be like, hey, what do you think of this, or what do you think of this, and like, that was awesome.
Right.
And then from there, it just kind of grew, and it was, and I would say part of it probably became just as much a habit, as to where, like I said, if I go to a game, right, like the first thing I do, I'll pull out William Hill. We gotta see what the line is, or walking into a bar, that's gotta be one of the worst things. I've got multiple TVs on with sports. I will bet on something just because it's on. You know what I mean? Just because it makes me watch it though too, right? And like you
Right.
said, it's like having a fantasy league where you pay attention to players.
Yeah.
Now you're watching it with a little more entertainment value, or maybe you'll pay attention a little bit of this, that, and the other more, right? Like one of my biggest that I like to bet is women's tennis.
Wow. Okay, didn't see that one coming.
Yeah. And
Explain.
I get told a lot. I hear a lot about it, especially at work from the guys and and even the people that I bet with. But I mean,
I heard about your Sharapova shirt. That you had Sharapova wins every time. I wondered what that meant.
It's just something I grew up around tennis because of my parents. My mom was a die-hard tennis player.
Yeah,
She
because you don't
loved
look like a
tennis.
tennis player at all, by the way.
No, I probably don't act like one either.
For those watching our YouTube channel, Will does not look like a tennis player.
So, I just grew up around it more, and I always enjoyed it, and I guess I pay a little more attention to it than most, and but that's one of those sports again where the favorites are real heavy. You gotta lay the chalk, so to speak. They're expensive favorites. But the more you pay attention to it, and that's a situation where you get into some parlays. You might start, instead of just betting a single person, laying some extra chalk, if you don't feel like getting that expensive, you might take 2 players who you really feel good about moving on. Especially in the first rounds, you're gonna get massive favorites with your favorites, because they're gonna be playing, in a bracket.
Right.
So you're playing high seed, low seed, and you're gonna get real big. So you may put 2 or 3 together there, and the payout may be 2 to 1. I think I hit a 3-leg tennis bet the other day, and the payout on that was only like 2.5 to 1 kind of thing. So, which is not big for like if you bet a spread in football at minus 110, you're gonna have a much bigger payback on that. So,
Quick question. So we just had, I don't know if you knew this, but we just had the very first Las Vegas Pickleball Open. Did you know that?
I didn't.
So
Did you play pickleball?
Because it's probably not on William Hill. So.
What I was gonna ask you is I noticed on ESPN that they have handball shows. There's actually a whole environment growing around pickleball, so considered the fastest growing sport. One of us at the table is pretty good at pickleball. Of course, I'm a ginger, so I have an added advantage. So because I'm
The
good at
lack
everything.
of life.
Yeah, that's right. Because I glow at night. So you haven't seen any pickleball plays yet?
No, I haven't, but I will say, I remember hearing about it the first time, and now I see it everywhere. Like
Yeah,
even,
so do
I went back to Idaho to play in my uncle's member guest this last June.
Yeah.
And we look out over there as we're warming up, and I'm looking at these people, and I'm like, oh, they're on the tennis court. They're not playing tennis. And I go, is that pickleball? And he goes, oh yeah, it's huge here now. He said, you get that? He said, people are buying tennis memberships at the country club.
Just to play
Like-
pickleball.
Yeah. So
It looks fun.
wanted to give a little shout out to the Derby Street Pickleball Club, where I'm a member, and we play 2 to 3 times a week.
Nice.
And we play from
The
9.
Derby Street Pickleball Club.
We play from 9 to
Yeah.
about 11:30 on Mondays and Thursdays. If anyone would like to come out and give us a little run for our money, yeah. So we started off and it's been fun. I'd say snow, but I mean really we don't really have snow here, but we play in some pretty inclement weather, and it just makes the game that much more interesting. So.
Shout out to Jeff Sorensen, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Shout out to Jeff Sorensen, one of the coaches of Nevada's finest Little League baseball teams, the Nevada Spartans, who just won another medal at some Little League U12 baseball tournament this weekend. So,
Yeah, I have a brother-in-law who's really big into pickleball. He lives in St. George, and he's always posting these big tournaments he's in, and It looks like a good time, man. It looks like a good time. But, okay, so that sparks another question. You like women's tennis.
I do.
What is the craziest bet you've ever put money on? Like legally put money, not a bet from a buddy, like, hey, I
Not like
dare
taking
you to
money
do
from,
this here.
from Adam, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is generally pretty easy.
Yeah.
Very easy. Very easy. I don't have a lot to give away. But serious, like a legit William Hill type bet, what's the craziest bet you've ever put money on?
Not just on women's tennis?
Not just on
Oh,
women's
great,
tennis.
yeah.
I don't
You
think
gotta go
women's
for it.
tennis is that big. I don't think it's very popular. I don't think a lot of
No.
people know about it.
No.
I mean, I know women's tennis is out there, but I didn't.
I mean, it's not like you're watching it. right?
Yeah.
Like,
I didn't even know there was lines, like, except for maybe like Wimbledon or the French, like the big
The big
Grand
stuff,
Slams.
Oh, yeah,
I didn't know
can
you-
bet WTA every week.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, I'm all over it. Craziest bet, all right, so I do have a good story. I was watching baseball, thank God it's baseball, we might not edit the end of it.
You got my attention now.
And the Angels were playing the Twins, and it was bottom 8, and I was looking in play, and the Angels, bottom 8, Twins were up, and the, I'm sorry, let me turn that around, it was the other way around. The Twins were in the bottom, so they're ahead 2, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh, okay, so I look at the in-game bet, right? And I'm looking on there and it says, the other side's +2.5. And I'm thinking, oh, sweet. So I can hit that no matter what, right? So I'm going, looking, so I'm trying to hammer that bet, 'cause I'm like, you literally can't lose, right?
Yeah.
Because the Angels are in the bottom, they go +2.5, no matter what, I'm getting the 2.5 on the top, so good to go. So I start hammering this bet, and I'm sitting there trying to get plus. Well, when the spread goes away at some point, which is generally in the 9th inning, so it's going into the 9th inning, I think I'm gonna catch one and just beat William Hill out of this free money. I think I had $400 in my account. I'm sitting there smashing. Well, the lines shift up one, and I'm hitting the wrong bet now, and I didn't even realize it accepted. And it was, at the time, it was plus like 250. So I'm like, man, that's better than 2 to 1. So going in there, right? All of a sudden, I'm hitting money line, not +2.5 anymore. Money line. So I've got the Twins now, who are losing by 2, in the top in the top of the 9th, right? Losing by 2, and I'm thinking, here I go from thinking, okay, because no matter what, we go 3 up, 3 down. I got the extra half point. St. Louis doesn't even bat, or not St. Louis. I'm sorry. The Angels don't even bat. We're good to go.
Yeah.
Now I've gone and it says sold. I'm like, oh, I nailed it. And then I look at the line, it says 7 to 1. I'm like, taking these idiots for all their money. And I look, it says money line. I go, oh my god. You know, so now I'm sitting there like watching it. And I went from absolutely like, oh, I've got this, to now I'm livid. Like I'm ready to flip the coffee table. I'm pissed off.
Someone over at William Hill's like, I got this guy's money.
And he said, I'm taking all this guy's money, right?
Right.
So I got this $300 bet in there, and I'm like, well, time to go reload the account.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there kind of watching it on Gamecast, and there's a single hit, and then another single hit, and then a broken bat single to right field, 2-runner score. I'm like, oh,
Wait a minute.
it's tied. So you're saying there's a chance. Solo home run, they're up 1. I'm like, oh, sweet. Inning ends. Or well, the top half ends, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we go to the bottom now. So now I'm watching this game and like the
Profusely
most-
sweating.
and I'm pulling my hair out, like I'm not wearing a shirt. I don't know where one of my shoes is, you know? And so it comes up, first batter strikeout, I'm like, yes. Second batter comes up, single, I'm like, all right, still alive.
Yeah.
Second batter comes up, broken bat, kind of single, just single out to right. Running
2
on first
on.
and second. I'm like,
Yes.
So now I'm sweating a little harder. Next batter, strikeout. Like, oh, 2 outs. All right, runner in scoring position. We can sweat this.
Yeah.
Who comes to the plate? Mike Trout.
Oh,
So at that
big
point,
money, Mike Trout.
I'm pretty much just ready to just walk out the door and leave the phone. Right? Strikes him out.
Wow.
So I go from, hey, I got this locked in bet. I'm gonna like double my money, be great, to winning $2,400 on an accident. An accidental bet, a bet I never would have taken, but I was so busy trying to beat William Hill out of it, and I was rushing, not paying attention, and bam, money line. Yeah, oh no. So that's
A
probably my.
roller coaster of emotion.
And it was, and I mean in minutes. It was a matter of 15 minutes, and but that was I would
Oh,
say that's probably my craziest story of a bet. Like I said, I had us winning the Golden Knights winning the Pacific Division our first year at 40-1. That's probably my biggest like odds win that I've ever taken. But
Yeah.
you know, and then that William Karlsson goal that went between his legs and the Sharks, that was to
Yeah.
win that bet for me.
Oh, wow.
And I had money on that game, so I really just kind of doubled that one up. But craziest one was definitely watching that Twins Angels game.
Man, we just watched Boston after the first intermission come back and put a puck on net.
30
Now they're
seconds.
up 3-2.
That was such a bad play too. Such a bad play.
Give away in the neutral zone.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's poor.
Then a one-on-one against Fleury, which it doesn't look like
Jeez.
Fleury's having a great game, but
Is
you
this
know,
streaming?
yeah.
You got it up to date?
Well, this just says that you're 2 minutes behind and Boston scored again. Just
4-2.
came through. Just came through on my phone.
Well,
I don't know if that's real. I mean, I've seen him screw up stuff like that all the time. I mean, I've seen him do other games and weird stuff that
Well, I had to restart it, so I'm not sure where it's at.
I used to do
time-wise.
that.
that's not right though.
I used
Obviously,
to,
we don't like your streaming service, so.
I used to do that to my son all the time. We would watch baseball, we'd stream it, and then I'd get an update on my phone. I said, hey, son, what do you want to bet he's going to smack a home run? No, he's not. I want to put $1 on it. So we bet $1 right there, and then boom, the next pitch, he's, how do you know that, Dad? It's like, dude, I just know. I can see it in his eyes, and I play it off.
I can
But-
tell by the way he's gripping that
Yeah.
ball. I got it.
Thank goodness for ESPN updates.
Yeah, right. I can't wait till he hears that.
I don't know if he listens to my podcast.
I don't know, we're getting a lot of followers out there,
We're
so.
starting, man. We're starting. We're getting there. We're starting to grow, man. We're really glad you came out, man.
Yeah, well,
thanks,
this is
thanks
fun.
for having
Awesome.
me.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll have you on again. We'll talk about this again, man. Because I guarantee, like, we've gotten a lot of feedbacks on people on the podcast and questions and stuff like that. And I've talked to other people, and some of the questions that we've asked you about sports betting, those guys have this exact same question.
Sure.
You know, I mean, and we've talked about this before, that this town is really becoming a sports town. I mean, we're growing with the Knights, with the Raiders coming, with things happening, the WNBA, the Aviators going to their playoffs and stuff like that. Things are happening, and I think those citizens here in this valley are really kind of coming close together. You've been to Knights games, man. They're on fire.
Oh, yeah,
Man,
it's
like they're
electric.
so much fun to be there, and so I think with this growth, I think a lot of people are out there like, man, I've never really gotten into sports betting, but now I want to get in on all this. You know, I want to be, I think that's a way for fans to feel like they're a part of the game a little bit. You know, you put something down on the game, and then now you kind of have a little bit of ownership to the game, if
Yeah,
that's the best way to
4-2.
describe it.
Man, Knights are playing horrible right now. Playing horrible. So that was pretty ridiculous. Bad. It
Is-
felt like it felt like Bruins were on a power play
Yeah.
and on our side of the ice. So
I mean, it looked
Look
like
at this,
they
watch
had, what,
this.
Oh,
right there,
Two
easy.
giveaways in the defensive
two
zone.
giveaways. It's like taking candy from a bear. Look at that. Doesn't that look like a power play right there?
I mean,
Look at
everyone
that.
there is lost.
Dude.
I mean, everyone was trying to recover.
Yeah, look at that. Look at that straight line.
There was no
No
weak side
check.
help.
Right in the corner.
All right. Well, we'll really appreciate it. This was fun.
Yeah,
This was
thanks for
great.
having me. And like you said, I'm sure you probably hear some other questions that'll come up. Stuff
Yeah.
we didn't cover got sidetracked over top.
Yeah, we'll
so.
definitely do this again, and we'll have a game on or something. How about next time we watch a baseball game?
Probably be over by then. Nobody wants to watch baseball. Takes too long.
Come on, man.
Just telling you, giving you most of the feedback. That's what everyone says.
You used to coach my son in T-ball.
I know, and it's like a part-time job. That's
Say,
why when I
feel
took
like
my
you
son
might
home.
have been the operative word there.
Yeah, everyone's like, do you
T-ball's
want
like babysitting with bat.
I'm like, hey, do you wanna coach baseball? No. I said, I'm not retired. It's kind of a part-time, full-time job. And I told my son, I was like, hey, did you really wanna play baseball? He said, no. I said, oh, we're not going back. So.
Oh, man.
So,
Well, the one thing we mentioned was how excited it is with the ice coming to Henderson
yeah.
on Water Street. I think that's gonna be huge for the youth and that kind of thing.
Speaking of, did you hear the rumor that Oakland threatened to give us the A's that also?
Yeah.
Threatened us? Why would they
Basically.
threaten us? Don't threaten us with
No, the
big
A's are
time.
saying they're gonna come here
Yeah.
because Oakland won't drop whatever lawsuit they have or whatever weird, whatever it is. But I heard this morning on the radio on the way to work that apparently we might be getting the A's.
We'll take them.
Mm,
I become an A's fan. I'm all about the local, all about it, man.
yeah, me too.
No, you're not.
But I don't want transplant teams.
Hey,
If-
Will,
if the
Will,
Raiders-
Will,
well,
who's
wait a
got,
minute,
who's
wait
got
a
night swag on tonight?
Wait a minute.
Who's
I
got
hate-
night swag on tonight?
I mean, I get it. I
Oh,
get what
come
you're
on.
saying.
Yeah.
I mean, he does have a Vegas hat on.
Yeah, Aviators.
Aviators.
I don't even think he went to a game.
That's baseball.
Did you even go to a club?
How do
where
you
did
see anyone from the game when your high seats are up there? You
Oh.
sit in the box seats every single time you go. I'm down with the common folk.
I am common folk.
Hey, if you got it, you flaunt it.
Yeah.
Dude.
So,
Dude, the food is better up there too.
Do you have a chocolate fountain up there?
Yes.
I don't wanna hear it then. You're not with the common folk. You got a chocolate fountain at a baseball game.
I just stand at the bar the whole time, not gonna lie.
Yeah. It's a great venue.
It is a great venue.
Better when you're not sitting next to you, I guess. So
Wow. How about we do a podcast from the pool?
we should. That would be fun.
Yeah. Get Rooftop Realty to cut up the $2,000.
Yeah.
Get 50 of our friends.
Is that all it is?
It's $2,000, and you could. I think it holds 50 people in the pool area. I believe it is. I think
I don't know. I saw a lot more than 50 people there last time I was there. Just saying.
I mean, that does look kinda
I
awesome.
think they give you 50.
Yeah.
I think that's partially food. I don't know if it's drink because there's a bar in
It's
the
like a
pool
food and
area.
beverage minimum kind of thing with it. kinda.
Something like
Yeah.
that. I don't think that's that bad. You get 50 people. Is it $40 a person?
Yeah.
Break it down. Or you
Oh.
get your rich friends that have box seats.
I love the Aviators games.
No,
wouldn't be an
it's
A's
nice.
Yeah.
Wrong side of the bay. I couldn't be an A's fan.
Really?
I'm tired. I don't want transplant teams anymore. I want it to be just like this.
Yeah.
I want expansion or bust.
Yeah. Exactly. That's
I
how
don't, I don't
feel,
care if
too.
we're good at all. I don't care if we were the worst team in the league. I don't care. I will happily buy more swag. I will buy whatever the jerseys, whatever the hats are, and I will support an expansion team way more than I would. Will I go to a Raiders game? Yes. They're not gonna play the Niners, so yeah, I'll go. Sure, I'll cheer. Will I go to an A's game? Yeah, because I like going to baseball. But am I gonna be an A's fan?
Yeah, I don't
I mean,
know.
it's kinda
I don't know.
hard.
No, I see
That's
what
like
you're
if
saying.
the Dodgers came
There
here.
is.
I would no. But that's different.
Look, I agree. There's something magical about the Knights and being a expansion team. I get it.
Vegas
Right.
born. Vegas
Yeah,
born.
Vegas born. That's magical. You can't take it away. I agree, totally, 100%. But at the same time, it's just to me, it's exciting to have local teams. So even if the local teams are a transplant team, if it gets a team here, man, I'm all over it.
I mean, I don't disagree.
All over it.
I'm just saying,
I'm just excited.
give me a chance, and I want my own team.
I want to get you out of the Seahawks jersey, put a Raiders jersey
Oh
on.
yeah.
Have a little class, Will, just because we always win.
What's their record this year?
4-1.
4-1?
Yeah.
This has gone south quickly.
Dude, that's a sign that we probably should end. Anyways, man, thanks for all those guys who subscribe. If you found us, please hit the subscribe button. Leave us a comment. Find us on Instagram, YouTube, and tell your friends about us.
Yeah.
And check us out, man. But thanks for listening.
Appreciate it. Will, we'll see you here shortly.
Sounds good. Thanks,
Yeah,
guys.
thanks a lot,
With a
Will.
Hawks jersey on.
All right.
All right.